Vandeham Sri Guru.
The topic was mind and senses. Now the whole system of yoga is about the mind and the senses. The very word yoga means to connect or to link. Generally people think the word yoga is associated with spandex, tight clothes and some exercise postures, which has some role to play, but that is not yoga. The word yoga, it means to connect with or connect to the Supreme. Actually, just connect to God. But if you don't have a concept of who is God or the whole idea, then things get a little abstract. And as abstract as the concept of God or Supreme is, to that degree is abstract the connection or the linking. Some people say it's linking to a higher state of consciousness. Well, not actually. It is our consciousness that we link with the Supreme Consciousness. So at some point in time we will talk about what is that Supreme Consciousness from the Bhagavad Gita or the Vedic point of view. But now we're just dealing with the realm we are in and talk about connecting or yoga. So we all have the five senses and a mind. Although sometimes we do mindless things. We have five senses and a mind. And the senses are nothing but, think of them as data gatherers. They collect information. The eyes collect visual information. The ears collect auditory information. The tongue collects information by taste. The skin collects sensory information. And the nose collects information by smell. And each of these is working on its own. Once in a while, one of these doesn't work so well. Therefore, we have to wear the spectacles and correct our instruments. But these are all just information gatherers, data collection. And somewhere, any one of us who's done some analysis, after you collect data, you have to analyze it, right? And when you analyze data, then you interpret it. After you interpret it, you get some knowledge about what the data is saying. You know what to do. So the mind is the place where all of this data is put together and it is analyzed. And each of us is actually working with some analytical capability. But the mind is the interpreter, the analyzer. And how we analyze it depends upon the intelligence that we are carrying. The intelligence is the value system. So we've done this, it's not new. Okay? The value system tells the mind, interpret this information like this. For example, let's say in America, you're walking on the street, you see a young man and a young woman making out. So if your value system says, hey, that's totally okay, you would hardly notice it, like you wouldn't pay much attention to it. But if my mother were walking here, she would have a heart attack. Out there, out on the street, public, my gosh, because her value system would not allow for it to, that would be like a sore thumb, it would stand out so much. And what to speak if my grandmother were around here, it was just like impossible, like the sky would be falling. Because her value system is completely different. So we see that the information that we analyze and interpret depends upon the value system that we carry, which is residing in the level of the intelligence. So the mind is a very, very important function, or we call it an organ, for lack of a better term right now. It's an organ. It's not like one of the things that we carry, like a liver, or if something happens to my liver, we could have a liver transplant. I cannot have a mind transplant. If I don't have something, if I don't have a mind, that's what I'm mindless. But the mind is a very, very important asset. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 6th chapter, is the whole discussion about the mind. And it begins with how the mind is the tool by which one can elevate one's consciousness, or by which one can go to hell. Go to hell means the mind moves these senses in a particular manner. And the mind is the repository where there are many things there. The mind has these functions called, where we do all our thinking. It's a repository of all our thoughts, where all our feelings are also residing, and all our things that we want to do, things that it's called our willing. Then there's all our impressions and conceptions of life are in the mind. An impression means memory. Something happened in our lives and we remember things, right? There are many things that we don't remember. So memory and forgetfulness. These are functions of the mind. And if we didn't have memory, we would not be able to work in this life. Anyone has a computer with no memory? What happens when memory is full? You're downloading something or you're trying to run something, memory is full. No more capacity for memory. Or it's called hard drive crash. All your memory is wiped out. What happens? You get very frustrated. You cannot do what you want to do. And in most people's case, they don't mind if their memory is gone. But the memory of the cell phone or the computer is far more important than my memory. Right? Nowadays we don't think. I don't care if I don't remember a phone number. It's there in my smartphone. Right? People have not become smarter, only phones have. Or computers have. But the idea of memory is memory gives us a sense of continuity. Memory gives us a whole idea of connecting today with the past and tomorrow with today and the past. If memory is not there, we cannot associate with any one of us. One of the diseases, mental illnesses, is dementia and Alzheimer's diseases. Have you ever met a person with dementia or Alzheimer's? Anyone? I've met. Just recently, I met somebody who's been diagnosed with dementia. Of course, she passed away. She died a few days ago. But the eyes, the nose, the tongue, the ears, the skin, they don't function very well because in the mind, the composite picture is all messed up. They can't make sense of things. They mumble something. They can't eat anything. They cannot, their hands and legs don't work that well. And in Alzheimer's, their whole sense of associating one thing with another, which is such an important thing for us, right? Like that light switch, we associate that light switch with lights. We associate the pen with the board. We associate a toothbrush with our teeth. But in Alzheimer's, all of those associations vanish. One after the other. They forget relationships, they forget people, they forget names, they forget, if you give them a key in their hand, they don't know what it's supposed to do. They can't tell, oh, this key means there must be a door that has a lock. They don't even know it's a key anymore. It's called Alzheimer's. So that's the central command, the central place where all of this information is being processed comes to a shutdown. So the mind is very important. And in modern contexts, the mind where all of these things are residing is not given so much importance. The only thing that is given importance is the function of the mind, is the memory part. Try to remember. Like I went through all my high school and engineering, just remembering things, repeating out of memory, whether I understood anything or not. I could come to America, and when my first time I came to graduate class, and my professor gave us a quadratic equation, I blurted out the formula for finding the roots of a quadratic equation. For people who come from India, they're like, oh, so what? Well, we all know. But when I blurted that formula out, everyone looked at me like this, like I came from, I was like Rain Man or something. It's like, wow, how'd you remember that? I said, this is nothing, I remember many other formulas. I knew all the steps in a complex mathematical problem. I just knew them by memory. And my educational system gave me high grades or points for how well I was able to vomit it all out. Because if I forgot something, then like, wait, man, you don't know the subject matter. I went to engineering college trying to study and understand something. Why magnetism works like this? Why electricity works like this? And by the time I studied, I was not ready for my exams. I remember them now. Or I can say I understand them now. But at that time, it was all how well you remember and how best you can vomit it back. And you became university top. It's called university topper. Crazy. But the whole idea of modern exercise for the mind is memory. They don't care for what all is happening here. And the Bhagavad Gita says that for a yogi, a person who's trying to cultivate the mind, to elevate it, to purify it, to clean it, they consider everything around what are the thoughts in the mind? What are the feelings that are being generated and considered? So this thinking function comes to a large degree from memory, but the thinking is how this information that we have through our senses comes in, and what is it that it associates with. So remember the value system, the intelligence. So as we cultivate our value system, I'll ask you a question. Where do we get our value system from? What are the sources of our value system?
Parents and experience.
Society.
Parents?
Yeah. Culture.
Yeah, good. Culture?
Books.
Friends.
Very good.
Schooling. Religion.
Society we live in.
Yeah, culture, society.
Schooling.
School?
Education.
Education. Yeah, everyone is living on it. In fact, not only that, all my value system comes from Facebook. models. Does anyone, we all have role models? Don't have to name them. I'm sure we have role models. And we try to ascribe to their vision or view of things. Like if my role model said, trust no one. Yeah, the hippie movement was like that, right? Trust no one. Trust nobody who's older than 30. That was their whole slogan. If they are over 30, you don't trust them. So if my role model says, don't trust anyone, and I ascribe to that conception of life, then how's my thinking? If someone does something for me, the first thing I'm suspicion. Why? Something's not okay. Maybe something very genuine, but I become very circumspect or cynical, or I'm not really sure, suspicious of their behavior. So now you see, depending upon our value system. If my religion says that religion is bad, your religion is very good, then whenever I meet a person from that religion, I wonder, these people must be like this. These people are like that. So we stereotype every person from that religion because that's the value system I'm carrying. So this is how we gather our value system. The Vedic view is that we should, Vedic view says that one should develop one's value system from scripture, and I'll explain this, from saintly persons, and third is one from one's teacher, or what they call guru. Now, scripture, when we're talking of scripture, is different from religion per se. Because generally religion, I'm limiting this to something ritualistic. You know, in my religion, on such and such day, we do this. In their religion, they do like that. In their religion, they do. I'm not talking of ritualistic here. I'm talking about actual spiritual knowledge that does not make distinction by race or gender or creed or caste or ethnicity. It just doesn't make any distinction like that. It does not even make distinction according to species. It is meant for the soul. And for those of you who've been with us, you know what I'm talking about. That teaching which is meant for the soul, to awaken the consciousness of the soul. That is called scripture for our discussion here. Now scripture is very vast. The Vedas are very vast. And so one may not know what applies to oneself in that circumstance of life. In Sanskrit there is a particular Upanishad, for those of you who like Sanskrit, called Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. Ever heard that name? Brihad Aranyaka means vast forest. So it said that knowledge is like a vast forest. What happens when you enter a vast forest? You get lost. Right? So it says that knowledge in of itself is so vast that one can get lost. We don't know. It's like walking into Walgreens and trying to figure out what medicine we should take. We don't know. So what they do is they classify it by cough and cold, or pain remedy, or something. When I was in marketing, I ran all these classifications. Now I don't remember, thankfully. Okay? But there's all these classifications. Even among pain remedy, for example, we will know what medicine is applicable to me. So the best way to know what applies to us is to have a teacher. The parallel is like a physician will give a prescription. Take this medicine. For example, if you walk into a pharmacy, we don't know what medicine to take, and let's say we're suffering from diarrhea, and we take laxatives. We say, oh, I like this one. I take a laxative. It makes it worse, right? Or if someone's suffering from constipation, we take something that stops things from moving. Then we'll have to make a movie called The Story of Stuff. So we need someone to give prescription as to what to do, how to apply knowledge in our lives such that our value system is improved for our thinking and feeling and willing. And we need others. When I'm saying saintly persons, for this discussion we're saying other yogis. Other persons who are cultivating such consciousness so we can see proper examples. Remember? We talked about friends, role models, education, culture. All of this are present in this because this gives the framework in which to live one's life from a cultural perspective, from an educational perspective. And so when there are other role models to follow, then the value system allows for a proper refined thinking. The thinking, generally this is subtler. It's a thought. Thought is a subtle action. For example, if I have a thought, I want to drink that water. I haven't drank, I haven't taken it yet, but I have subtly acted. It's called subtle action. And then there is the gross action, that I actually walk up, take the water and drink it. So our thinking is where our subtle actions are happening. And then our willing is where the gross actions are happening. And our instruments move, our hands move, eyes, nose, ears, they're all activated. So we know how our willing is connected to karma. Remember, we spoke about what we do and how it has reactions to what. So how we act depends upon what we are willing to do. And what we are willing to do depends upon our feelings and thinking about that idea. And our thinking comes from our value system. Generally we call that ethics or morality or whatever. It comes from our value system. So like in the story of stuff, if we improve our value system, refine our value system, then our thinking improves. And when our thinking improves, our willing improves, and our activities improve. And this karmic cycle which forces one for another birth and death, we break that cycle by upliftment of the thoughts or the quality of our thinking. Therefore, the mind is considered the most important, central organ or function or sense in either our upliftment or downfall. Downfall means heavy karmic involvement. Upliftment means enlightenment. So for a yogi, the way they manage their mind is very important. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, for a yogi who knows how to culture his mind, the mind is his best friend. And for a fellow who doesn't know how to culture his mind is his worst enemy. For example, a worst enemy of the mind, how mind works is, suppose the mind says, nobody likes you. You should take revenge. Then I then gives me all the ideas of how I can get a gun, come into public and shoot people. The mind can do all sorts of things. Other mind will say, what's the use of living? There is no fun here. Nobody cares for you. There's no love in this place. There's no friends. Just walk to such and such place and give up your life. And people do these things. Or the mind say, make it big. Earn money. Forget about everything else. Just make money. If you have money, you get everything else. And a person spends all their life pursuing making money. And it doesn't matter what are the outcomes of that, they got ulcers and stress and all, but that doesn't matter. Hey, you got money, you take care of all of it later. Just make money now. So you see, the mind can either elevate someone or it can completely drag someone to lower levels of consciousness. So it's very important what to do with the mind. So the whole system of yoga is to gradually take the mind from, here are the steps, I'm going to say it in English. First is to give the mind a proper culture. Then to withdraw the mind from pushing the senses to sense objects. So it's like you close the doors, you close the windows. You trap all the light. So nothing, all the outlets are closed. And then the mind is given something to hold on to. It's called meditation. And then slowly that meditation is enhanced by repeating, by disciplining by repetition. And as the mind gets disciplined, its ability to stay becomes stronger. Otherwise, the mind has 4 characteristics or features, attributes. It is flickering. It is forceful. It is very strong. And it is obstinate. In the Bhagavad Gita it's described. So if ever you want to refer to, it says Chanchala, Pramati, Balavat, Dridam.
Which verse?
It is after Krishna describes the yoga system, somewhere around 30, 33, and Arjuna speaks. So flickering, naturally, it means on and off. I like that, I don't like that. Mind constantly likes something now, doesn't like. Likes a person, 2 days later doesn't like the person. Likes a gadget, 3 days later doesn't like it. Flickering. Forceful means, even if you say, I am not going to think something about that person, 1 nanosecond later, that's where the mind forces us to think. I mean, for a very cultured mind, nanosecond. Otherwise, it's almost instantaneous. And strong. If you say no, it says, who cares? Very strong. And obstinate. How much ever you try to take the mind from this place to that place, the mind says, see you later. I'm staying here. It's very frustrating. We try to focus or concentrate while we're studying or something. Where does the mind peacefully stay? When does the mind stay peacefully?
When you're doing what you love.
No, not when you're sleeping. When you give in to what it wants to do. And then when the mind is controlling us, everything is fine. The mind says, just forget about everything. Just do this. Go watch a movie. Just go watch a movie. And the mind will not disturb you at all. As soon as the movie is over, then the mind, if it has something new command to give you, they say, now you go there, now you eat this, you talk that, call people on the phone. That's why, people who are addicted to this thing, it's just unbelievable. Have you seen people, how often they check their email? Oh my gosh. And it's like a disease, email. Or now it's Facebook, where anyone uploaded something, any new status, something. The mind keeps saying, check, nothing new to check. Even if you say, I will not look at my phone again. 5 seconds later, you're there.
What about the people who have created these things?
It's their mind. And we're plugging into their mind. It's where our value system is coming from. This is how we take association. We take their value system and make it ours. Like in a movie. In a movie, we take the director or the producer or the story writer's value system and we accept it. And so we sit there, we cry, we laugh, because we're accepting the value system. How many of you watched Seinfeld? The whole, if you watch Seinfeld? Okay. The whole of, Seinfeld, right? Of course. The whole of America had accepted that value system of 4 losers, 4 friends, or friends, whatever the other one was. Everything went according to how Seinfeld was showing life in America. And to a large degree, it is true. But people started associating, their language became like what was happening in Seinfeld, new terminology, yada yada. It all came from there. People never knew these terms. So that's how we associate and we take new value systems. So we have to take somewhere, as described, that we take from the Vedic system, because it is pure, it's clean, it is elevated. So the whole of system of yoga is to be able to control our mind and direct it. But once the mind becomes disciplined, oh, it's fantastic. It helps in really taking our consciousness into all these fantastic areas of knowledge that we never knew existed. In fact, it says that the mind is the vehicle in which one can come face to face with the absolute truth, if it is properly utilized. Otherwise, it can take one down. So the first thing in a system of yoga is, before all of the mind control and purifying the mind and giving a new culture and value system, all of that, before all of that comes what is called channelizing. That means that there is some discipline. Without discipline, the mind doesn't get into its groove. And the disciplining is what is called sense control. How you decide how to engage the senses. The mind will resist, because we talked about the mind being forceful, strong and obstinate. It will resist. And you want to do something that's disciplining the mind. Have you ever seen how a horse is disciplined? You seen ever, how is a tiger disciplined in a circus? Or a ferocious tiger?
With the whip.
No, before the whip. Hey, if you take a wild tiger and give a fellow a whip and say, only the whip will be there.
It's kept hungry, I guess.
Correct. It's starved. The tiger is starved for days on end. And once in a while, a fellow will come and throw a little piece of meat. just enough to keep the fellow alive. And as he gets starved, it becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And even then, after that, the fellow can open the tiger's mouth, put his hand inside, and he doesn't have the strength to bite. He really starves the tiger. So the yogic process is to starve the mind. Because the mind keeps pushing. One has to learn to starve the mind. The strength to starve the mind comes from the value system. Value system means here. What is it that we are wanting to do? Or we say intelligence that says, well, hold on. My dear mind, I have a higher purpose. And let that higher purpose is what I want to focus on. Just shut up. One who's able to learn, discipline the mind like that, then the mind starts becoming a friend. So this disciplining is generally called sense control. In Sanskrit, the word is called dhamma. Dhamma means to not give in to the pushing of the mind. The mind says, go do this, eat this, drink that. No. One has to learn sense control. That's the first thing. So to know what is sense control, one should know what are the controlling factors. Right? In controls, if you don't know what is the controlling factor. Like if you want to drive your car, the first thing to do is to read the Illinois rule book, where it has certain rules of what you shall do on the road and what you cannot do. Right? There are rules and regulations. Then you practice those rules and regulations. When you're turning right, you have to give an indication that you're going to turn right. You have to stop at a red light, like that. So the rules and regulations are important to follow. There are certain rules and regulations, such as cultivating a life of simplicity, goodness, non-violence, tolerance, humility, etc. There's a long list of qualities to practice and cultivate, so that the mind, from being a extremely loud, ferocious tiger, becomes a timid, nicely domesticated friend. So there's some rules and regulations to follow. From rules and regulations, then comes the whole idea of giving the mind something to slowly focus on, which we call usually meditation or contemplation or like that. So we'll do a short exercise. Next week we'll actually do a whole meditation session. Today we'll just do a short exercise. For the next minute or 2 minutes, I'd like you to close your eyes. And not yet. Listen to them. And just observe where all your mind goes. Just let it go and observe where it goes. If it brings back memories from past or something about the future or something right now, I'm hungry, I'm tired, it's cold, it's too warm, whatever. Just observe where all the mind goes for the next minute. I'm going to keep time. And if you go too far, I'll call you back in a minute. Alright, we'll start now. Don't try to control it. Don't try anything. So some ideas? Where did the mind take you? You don't have to give me specifics, but just some category of things. Any volunteers?
People who are the value system came from the past, like those people.
Some people from the past.
Past.
Okay.
Some informal discussion that happened in the past,
Okay.
and probably an acquaintance from the past.
Anyone else? Well, we're going to say something.
There's seeing random animals in the forest, and then a song came to mind.
Okay.
Past.
Past. Like
Yeah.
how far past? Like the last hour or
No.
a few years ago?
Few years ago, yeah.
People or circumstances?
People and circumstances.
Of course, our circumstances for people. Okay. Thank you. Stephanie?
Symbols.
Symbols.
Yeah.
Okay. Just random symbols showed up?
Kind of like some of the symbols that I saw like before.
Okay.
Like random visual composition that you
Yeah.
have. It's like whatever, just art, so I just combines what I see and just kind of put it together.
Correct. Mind has the ability of making composite pictures. It's the perfect Photoshop. So layers, different things that makes it look like wow, something new. Anyone else? You want to share? You want to? Yeah.
Went from food to homework,
You're my friend, man. Food is
again, then think about the earth, and then I went back to the movie about the movie stuff, and then after that it went back to food.
food. Great. Okay, so now we'll give the mind something to hold on to for the next minute or minute and a half. And now you make a conscious effort to, so I'm going to say a statement. That's what the statement will hold on to in our mind. And let the mind not run from that or deviate from that. And when you do notice the mind goes away from that, trying to bring this thought back in. For example, if this thought and you see some symbols and you say, oh, no, bring it back. Consciously bring, no, come back to this thought. Okay? The thought is, I want to become pure. So take that, I want to become pure, and hold that thought and bring the mind back. Okay? I'll give you 2 minutes for this. Just, I want to become pure. Okay, open your eyes. Were you successful, unsuccessful in keeping the mind on that thought? No. Not successful. So did you recognize that the mind was flickering? It was obstinate? Yes? That it wouldn't come back where you wanted to come? You were thinking about food, huh? Strong? It goes away and stays there? Or forceful? This is my doctor. was that? Force field?
There was a lot of inertia,
Inertia.
yeah,
Meaning? I mean, I know what inertia is. You tell me what, how you...
it drifts off, and then you try your best to bring it back in. It stays over there for about a few seconds or so. Then again, you put the picture back in, then it comes back. Then again, it sort of slips out. So the inertia to come back to the status quo.
Right. And even if you bring it, immediately flickers. And then so many different things show up. What else?
It's actually slippery.
Slippery.
And you don't even realize it. It moves from a thought to another, and you don't even realize. Thinking of focusing on something, it moves away.
Yeah.
And it's only after some time that you realize you haven't.
Correct. When the delta deviation is so big that like, whoa, how did I get here? Happens.
That distinction between the controller and the thought gets blurred quite often. Like exactly what he was saying. There is one thought trying to control another thought, but both them merge and go off for a walk. And then to actually realize you're there somewhere, that is also a little tough. That's what I found.
Anyone else? Would you like to share something?
It was in control for some time until somebody came in. So
How many had the urge to open the eyes to see who walked in? This is how the mind says, hey, who's that? Let's see.
I was worried who will sit in front of the camera. So
Correct.
lost.
Right. So this is the beast we're trying to nurture and control so that one will have elevated consciousness. I'll end with this. Our consciousness, the quality of our consciousness is the quality of our mind. So if our mind is into something very, very low, that's where our consciousness is. If our mind is into this rat race, competitive, be the winner, that's our consciousness. And if our mind is about peace and freedom, and not freedom like in a competitive rallying freedom like that, but in more natural sort of things, our consciousness is a little higher than that. But if it is actually meant for taking our consciousness to understanding the truth, therefore I gave the statement, I want to become pure, that cultivation takes the mind slowly from very low to very high. And we need to practice. Without practice, perfection cannot come. It's not like tomorrow morning we're going to wake up and be this super yogi geniuses. It doesn't work like that. And if someone promises you, don't accept it. It doesn't work like that. You have to practice. Every day, you have to do a little to keep the mind disciplined. Discipline is a series of small steps in the right direction. Anyone studying finance here? Anyone understand what's time value of money? Okay. Anyone ever heard what is 401k? Okay, good. What is 401k? It's money that you take from your salary and you put it into a fund each month or twice a month towards your retirement. Okay? So that at retirement we are hoping there are hundreds of thousands of dollars waiting for us. It grows like that because we put in little by little regularly. Right? It's that, think of it like that. Disciplining the mind is one day when we want the mind to be fully pure, every day is a little deposit of purity. A little deposit of something clean, something real. Little deposits every day in the right direction elevates our consciousness. It's not a, tomorrow, if anyone thinks all this yoga stuff, if I'm determined and I want to control my mind, I can do it tomorrow. Sure. Or like they say in America, yeah, right. It doesn't work like that. It's little deposits every day. So when we meet again, we'll do a little real meditation. Okay, I'm very late today, so I'm very, very sorry. It was my fault. Sorry to keep you waiting. We'll have lunch, and then we'll move on to other things. Well, thank you for waiting for me. It was nice. Yes.